Hello and welcome to Building the Premier Accounting Firm. This is for accounting professionals interested in having the premier accounting firm in their area, offering quality accounting services and getting paid what you're worth. Now, with this, we actually have as a show the intent of helping you address various topics each and every week with the experts, ranging from ideas related to marketing, selling, pricing, training your staff, onboarding your clients, using technology, client relationships, and so much more. I happen to be your host, Roger Knecht, president of Universal Accounting Center. And for more than 20 years, I've actually been working with accounting professionals to help them both start and build their accounting businesses, ranging from a solo entrepreneur offering accounting, bookkeeping, tax type services to an accounting firm, CPAs, enrolled agents, staffs, and so forth. Whatever your situation, this is a podcast meant for you. Now, each and every week I have on a guest, an expert in their own right as to what it is that we can be doing to improve ourselves. And today will be no different. Now, I have Donna Serdula. She happens to be the founder and president of Vision Board Media. She is a professional branding company that helps individuals and companies tell their unique story on LinkedIn and beyond, bringing dynamic brand storytelling to the masses and empowering people to dream big. That's her ink in her pen. Now, with that being said, it's her website, linkedin-makeover.com, where she actually helps her team help people coincide and collide with the opportunity to transition their lives via future-forward career branding. Now, she has authored 2 editions of LinkedIn Profile Optimization for Dummies. Donna hosts a podcast called Dream Big with Big Dreamers. And she's also shared her LinkedIn experience at global conferences, presented keynotes and workshops, and been featured on a number of high-profile news outlets. So, Donna, welcome to the show.
Hey, Roger. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. You know, LinkedIn is such a key element to business today. If you don't already have a profile, shame on you. You need one. But there's a difference between having a profile, a presence on LinkedIn, and using it or leveraging it to build your business. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. So many people, they get on LinkedIn and they really don't know where to start or what to do.
Well, one of the challenges I think they have is there's a lot to it. You know, you've got up at the top the picture, you've got to have a good headshot, you've got your banner. And then that's in addition to that, what do you say about yourself? And then it's the listing of your experiences and getting people to actually like or compliment the skills or talents that you have. I mean, there's a litany of things to do. Are there some best practice tips that you would have just at first to have a decent profile?
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, they get started with LinkedIn, or maybe they've been on LinkedIn for years and they just seem to ignore the profile. It's something that at one time they opened up their resume and they copied and pasted the fields from their resume into their LinkedIn profile, and they think they're done. They think, okay, I did that. But the LinkedIn profile really should live with you. It should reflect who you are right now in time. And and that's, I think, a really big issue. People do it years before and they never keep it up to date. They never look at it in that future forward type of way. Like, does this represent the person that I want to be, the way I want to be perceived by other people?
You know, I can actually speak to that for a quick moment. I remember years and years ago creating my LinkedIn profile, and it asks obviously for your work history. And so in that process, I was like, I've got saved somewhere an old resume. Now, mind you, I've been at this business here in this company for 20 plus years. So I was like looking for a resume that I'd written back in the 90s, just so that I could have my previous work history. But I knew the Word document existed. I found it and I went through and created it. And what it became initially as a LinkedIn profile was nothing more than an obituary. It was, here's who I was. And it was years ago, maybe 2 years ago, I went through a training where I was able to convert my LinkedIn profile from being this obituary of here's who lies Roger who did this, to all of a sudden, here's who I am, what I do, and how I can help individuals and why you'd want to associate with me. And there was a transition there. What's the difference in your mind between those 2 types of profiles?
Yeah, and the funny part right, is oftentimes people do get on LinkedIn for job search.
Mm-hmm.
And so they think, oh, I do want it to be my resume. But, the resume should really align you to a very specific position,
Mm-hmm.
whereas that profile should be more general. And it really should be more of that digital introduction, that first impression. I like to think of it as your professional manifesto, and it should tell that story of who you are. And it should be warm, it should be conversational, and it should be about you. I know so many people want it to be about their company, but I really think that for most people, they get on LinkedIn and, if they're looking at you, they want to know more about you. They want to know if they should like you, if they should trust you, if they should, how they should feel about you. And you have that power to tell that story that's going to get them engaged and interested.
There's an idea behind having a profile and branding it. You just brought up there's a difference between having it kind of reflect who you are as opposed to your business. Let's bring branding into that. What's that?
Yeah.
What's that branding idea in relation to having a LinkedIn profile?
And to me, when you think of the brand, of a person, it's that feeling, it's that story, it's what a person thinks about you when you're not in the room anymore, right?
Uh-huh.
It's almost that intangible just feeling. And it's hard for people, especially when they're doing it themselves, to sit down and come up with it, because we sit so close to our strengths. We think everyone has them. It's really hard. And so to me, when you're looking at that profile, the first thing you really need to do is say to yourself, why am I on LinkedIn? What am I trying to achieve? For some people, it's to be seen as an expert. Some people are doing it because they want to showcase their past. They want to do it for reputation management. Other people are doing it for prospecting and sales. Others are doing it because they are looking for that next opportunity. But, it depends. What you write depends upon what you're trying to accomplish and who your target audience is.
I love how you just said that, because we have to define, after creating the profile, the purpose of it, and that will then determine what we're saying on it, maybe the posts that we're writing. It's how we're leveraging it. But it all begins with first having the profile and then deciding what's the purpose of it so that we can then tailor it towards that need. And that's part of that branding process.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, are there some commonly overlooked things that are important to actually have as part of your profile?
I think one of, when we look at the profile, just starting at the very top, there's the visual aspect, there's the background image, there's the profile picture. Those are things that a lot of times people don't pay much attention to, but very easy to optimize, very easy to add. There is the headline. And the headline, LinkedIn almost buries it. It's hard to access, to edit. And they give you this default of just your current title and your current company.
Mm-hmm.
But what they're not really telling you is, one, the part the headline plays in the search algorithm. You infuse it with your keywords, you're going to be more apt to turn up higher in those search results. But it also follows you. The headline follows you. So it's not just on your profile, but pretty much any type of activity you do on LinkedIn, people are going to see your picture, they're going to see your name, and they're going to see that headline.
Now, one of the things that I think is important here is, with the LinkedIn profile, we've identified that we've got one at this point. We've kind of determined its purpose. We've branded it. You're talking about the headline and that element that needs to be in there. But now it's, can we use it for networking? We have the opportunity here to connect with people, theoretically.
Mm-hmm.
Is LinkedIn a good platform to network with?
Absolutely. I mean, the network is really the backbone of LinkedIn. So, the way I look at it, you need to strategize. You need to know why you're on it. You need to know your target audience. You need to optimize that profile and align it to your goal, align it to what your target audience needs to know about you. And then once you optimize, then it's time to start to amplify. And the way you amplify is through the network. You want to make sure that you're always connecting, that you're building that network. You have those connections. Because if you don't have those connections, really that's the reason why most people aren't getting the traction, especially if they've optimized their profile.
Uh-huh.
They're not getting the traction. It's because they simply don't have enough connections on LinkedIn. If you think about it like an address book or a Rolodex, an empty address book is useless. An empty Rolodex would be useless.
Yeah.
So, in order to be seen, in order to get found, in order to get noticed, you need to have that network to support you and the profile.
We're social creatures. We need to have that connection with other people. And so I really do believe that. And I think LinkedIn is a professional way to do it. But one of the things that comes to mind as we're having this conversation, especially regarding networking, is the old adage of the 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon. It's amazing to me. You've got these first degree, second degree, third degree connections with people. Talk to us about what those are and why they matter.
Sure. So in the LinkedIn realm, there are 2 ways. You can follow a person or you can connect with a person. If you follow someone, it's a one-way street where you're just pretty much subscribing to their feed. But when you connect with a person, you're actually inviting them into your network. And the LinkedIn network does, like you said, it extends 3 degrees. And so when you invite a person into your network and you send them a connection request and they accept it, they're not the only one that's coming into your network. Their first degree connections are coming into your network as second degree connections to you, being that there's a mutual connection. And all of those second degree connections, their connections are coming in as well. So, when you connect with a person, you're connecting with their network and their network. And that's where you're getting the first, second, and third degree. In fact, if you join any groups on LinkedIn, any of those members of those groups that you've joined, they're also in your network as third degree connections. So what does this mean? What this means is anyone who is searching for you, if you are in their network, you can be found. Because when a person is searching, when they're doing keyword-based searches, they are searching their LinkedIn network. They're not searching the entire database of users.
Yeah. So imagine now you build this network of connections. How do we leverage it? How can it be helpful, especially if I'm an accounting professional and I'm either looking for employment or I'm looking for clients? I mean, how could I use this network that I'm theoretically building?
So one of the ways is, let's say you go to, let's say this. Let's say you're developing your book of business and you have some target accounts that you would love to add as clients. You could go into LinkedIn and do a search for the company. And from that company page, you can click on people and see all of the people that have worked there. And when you're looking at all the people who are currently working there, you could look to see, are they first, second, or third degree connections? If they're first degree connections, you already have an automatic in because those are people that work there that you already know that you've connected to. If they're a second degree connection, you know that you both know someone in common who could act as an introduction to you.
So one of the things that I think is very critical here is whether it be for employment or for client purposes, just the familiarity of them seeing your name, realizing that you're connected is very helpful in the employment or the client acquisition process. It's kind of like politicians. When you're driving down the street and you see all their posters and banners and so forth, what they're doing is they're trying to acquire name recognition. At least that's one of the purposes, so that when you go to the ballot box and you're looking at the names of the candidates, the one that sounds most familiar, forget whether or not you know their policies. It's the fact that they're familiar. They're like, well, I guess I've got to pick somebody. I'll pick the one that I've seen because that one looks right or familiar. Use that same thought process as to someone now evaluating whether or not to use your accounting services and do work with you, or they have a question and reaching out to you. The fact that your name is familiar and over time it's been brought to their attention lends itself to then being more likely to then materialize into that client relationship. And so that's one example I'm hoping that might illustrate a little bit of how LinkedIn can be beneficial as a tool to build a business. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And how would you go about that? So, once you see that person, you see their profile, you don't even need to connect with them immediately. You can hit the follow button. You can then hit the bell on the right-hand side of their profile that says, hey, alert me if this person does post. And then if you access LinkedIn and you jump in from time to time, you notice that they post something, jump on in and comment. Start a conversation because they've already planted that initial seed.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can respond to it. And you do this for, a few times, suddenly they're going to recognize your name. Maybe at that point you then want to send the connection request because you're no longer that stranger.
Yeah, what you're doing is we're moving from being someone that's unknown, not familiar, to now you're someone that's on their radar, and it's going to help us in the sales process to move into that expert category, hopefully. And as we move into that relationship and they see us now as someone to be contacted, we're that accounting professional, that tax expert. We're moving up that slide bar, if you can imagine, of I've seen them not once, but 3 times, now 10 times, the name's becoming familiar. But then if you're also posting, and maybe we should talk about that, by connecting with them as you post, they're then perhaps going to see the content you're posting, and that may elevate you further as that expert that they, when they have a need, may see you as the solution to that situation. So, the posts can be then purposed at this point. Is that right?
Absolutely. With LinkedIn, it's no longer just a profile. It really is this LinkedIn feed. And you can access LinkedIn. It doesn't have to be just on the desktop experience. I mean, you can use your phone, you can access it via the app, and you can scroll through that LinkedIn feed. And that is your network. Posting and talking and trying to engage with you. And so you as that person, you should be looking at that LinkedIn feed and seeing who's talking about what. And don't just read it and move on to the next, but jump in and engage. Don't just hit the like button. Hit hit comments and add a comment, add your 2 cents. And use that, engage, add some information. And you don't have to do it all the time, Roger. I mean, with entrepreneurs, they're busy. They've got a lot going on. But, if you can post yourself, if you can actually add a post where you're maybe sharing an article or sharing a tidbit, sharing a stat, sharing some advice, it's a good thing because people start to see you. It is that drip feed marketing.
I think that what you're doing here is you're starting to talk about best practices. Now that I've got the profile and I've determined its intent, maybe branded it some, and I'm building my network. Well, now that I have a network, if I post, theoretically, many of them may see that post. So if I've got a network of 100, a network of 500, a network of 1,000, these people are going to see what I have to say. Now, from a best practice point of view, how often should I be posting theoretically?
Roger, you will hear people say, "Oh, you've got to post every day." I think it's insane. I don't think many business owners can do that on their own. And I do think it's something that's hard to outsource. So, my belief is this, with LinkedIn, if you can post once a week, that's fabulous. And why does once a week work? Well, these LinkedIn posts do tend to live longer than other posts on other networks. So if you post something on Monday and you post it and it's engaging and people are reacting to it, that post can continue to show up on people's feed for the next 4 or 5 days. So it's not like you have to post every day, all the time. It's really more about quality than it is about quantity in the LinkedIn realm. Now, everything that I just said, if you want to be this like highfalutin influencer, you're going to have to do it a little bit more. But for someone who is an average user who wants to see traction, who wants to see results, but doesn't have, a lot of time, once a week will get you something. It'll get you something quite nice, in fact.
I'm glad you said it that way because I think initially we want to just keep in mind there may be some people who are overwhelmed by this. And so we want to give them at least a baby step into the world of creating the profile, leveraging the profile, and so forth. So that once a week advice to post, I think, is very appropriate. We're all reading content. We all have something that might be somewhat important to say. So once a week, what would you say? That brings the question now of, is there any secret to growing the network that we have? Because the more people that see it, the better. Obviously, we want deliberate and intentional connections, but is there a way to grow this that makes sense?
Let me let me take one step back.
Okay.
Post once a week, right? So don't get too overwhelmed. Post, add something once a week, but the days in between, go on, scroll through, give it 5 minutes and comment and like. And by doing that, by engaging, that can help you actually grow your network. It can
Agreed.
help you get seen.
And
And it also helps when you do post, those people that you've been interacting with all the other days of the week, they're more apt to see your post.
exactly. One of the things that I think I almost get frustrated by is, even with my own posts, is I'll have people that will comment that they've seen it, that they've liked it, they found it informative or interesting, but yet I can tell you they didn't technically like it or comment on it, but they had plenty to say when they saw me.
Mhm.
But what it tells me is that people are somewhat reluctant to do what they're inclined to do, which is like it. They do like it, but they just don't click on it. And I would highly encourage you, like on these people's posts, there is kind of an endorphin rush that the person gets when somebody acknowledges that the post that they did was liked by someone.
Oh,
So
yeah.
just as much as we see our teenagers finding excitement by, hey, I've got so many people that liked my post, as adults, we're probably not as maybe consumed by it, but it is kind of nice to know that somebody out there liked what we had. So take the time to just like it.
Yeah, and Roger, there's another reason for it too. You're also supporting that person. So by
Yes.
liking it, you're conveying to LinkedIn in a very quantifiable way that there is value to this post, that this post is relevant and it should be
Hmm.
seen by more people.
Hmm.
So when you interact with a post, you are helping that post be seen by more people. You're really truly helping that poster.
Yeah. I'd like to switch gears on this and talk about notifications. It's one of the things I really like about the LinkedIn platform. The notifications, when you click on it, it notifies to me who's having birthdays. It tells me who's been looking at my posts or commenting. It tells me on there various things such as advancements or anniversaries, new roles. And I've really taken to like commenting or at least acknowledging those and taking the moment to wish people happy birthdays or anniversaries or new roles. And I have found that that's really kind of helped the networking that I've done and foster the relationships that I'm trying to build. What would you add to the notifications element that exists within the LinkedIn platform?
When you do celebrate that anniversary, and suddenly there is that rush of people saying, congrats, congrats, congrats. A lot of times we sort of we stop and we're like, oh my goodness, I'm getting besieged in these messages. And it almost, in some ways, it's almost an annoyance. But I would say utilize this opportunity to say thank you to the people who are congratulating you, and maybe even giving them something as, a reward for reaching out to you. A lot of times there's just not that full reciprocation doesn't take place. And I think it's just because people get overwhelmed or they're too busy. But, when a person does reach out to you and they do say congratulations, and it happens at least once a year for those of us who have that notification turned on,
Uh-huh.
use it to say thank you. Use it to ask for, maybe a conversation, or maybe say, hey, I created this one sheet that talks all about different ways of preparing for tax season. And I think it's a value, and I'm going to give it to you for being so kind to say, congratulations to me.
I like that. That's good. What other features in LinkedIn would you like to highlight that you find helpful?
I mentioned it earlier, but it's a new feature, and I think it's fabulous. It is the ability to turn on notifications per profile. So, I connect with you, Roger, and I see that you're posting some really great stuff, but maybe I'm not always seeing it on my feed. And so what I can do is I could go to your profile and I could click. There's now a bell icon in the upper right. And you can click on that bell icon. And now whenever you would post, I'm going to see it because it's going to land in my notifications each and every time.
So with that said, everyone go to your LinkedIn profile, search my name, and turn on the bell.
Yeah.
That's what we want. All right. So Donna, there are a number of third-party apps or plugins that can be used to network and build the group. And I understand LinkedIn frowns on using these third-party things.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about that.
LinkedIn really has, in the early days, if you think about it, they did a lot of spamming, a lot of emails, a lot of weird notifications that would constantly go out. And they created a little bit of a problem with their network in the early days because of that. And I think LinkedIn recognized we've got to clean up our platform. We've got to make sure that it's a pleasant place to be. It's a sticky place to be. People want to be there. And because of that, they've really tried to stop the spam, to stop the excess salesy, notifications and whatnot. And because of that, they really do. They frown on those bots that, send out the message requests and the connection requests. So here's my thing. With LinkedIn, you want to play nicely in their sandbox, because if you don't, they can boot you off, and that would be a horrible thing. But, don't go on LinkedIn with this idea that you're going to, that it's a numbers game and that you're there to sell and you're there to get business and you're there to find leads. That's really not the right attitude to have. It's so much better to go on LinkedIn and see it for, this long-term relationship building, and go on it with a thought that you're going to help people and you're going to add value and you're going to educate and you're going to have fun. And when you do it like that, it's funny how people are attracted to that mindset, to that attitude. It's when you go out there and you're always trying to take something, that's really what turns people off. So it's just, it's really changing one's mindset. Look at it as a place to, forge relationships, to build your network, to have some fun, to inspire and motivate. And when you do that, you do it consistently, the business is insane that comes from it.
Yeah. There are two things that I try to keep in mind when it comes to LinkedIn. One, with the connections, it's a market, or I guess it's a marketing principle. It's basically called TOMA, top of mind awareness. You just want to be familiar so that as your name comes up, it's more and more someone that they're acquainted with and familiar with and comfortable with. And so that's something that LinkedIn does. But it's also the giver's mentality. What can I give to the community? What can I give that would be helpful to my network? What would be inspirational or informative? And it's through that education that people start to see you more and more, hopefully, as the expert and a solution to a situation that may come up. And through that TOMA, hopefully your name or your post appears at that right time. And they're like, you know what? I know somebody. And it's interesting, that first connection, they may never have spoken to you, emailed you, or whatever, but they'll actually use the phrase, I know somebody, and they'll reach out with a message or go to your contact information and pull from that your email and send you an email and say, hey, we've connected on LinkedIn, by the way. And it's interesting how conversations will start just like that.
Yeah. It's, people are different now. At one time, they really did need to have a salesperson lead them through the whole process. But people are researching. They know Google. It's not hard for them to go in and try to learn more about the industry and what's out there and who's out there and who are the players. And a lot of times, by the time they call you, they've already made a decision, and it's based upon the footprint that you've created for yourself online.
Yep. So give me real quickly some best practices that we could just help the listeners with real quickly. What are some best practices?
Best practices, go onto your profile and look at it with fresh eyes. Really say to yourself, is this is this who I was, or is this who I am? Is this who I'm moving, into the future? Is this a profile that's going to impress people? Does it give them a sense of me and my warmth and how I help and, why I'm different? And if it doesn't, spend time to really develop something that is very unique and authentic to you. And don't write it with this desire that you're going to sell a person immediately. You can't sell them on the LinkedIn profile, but
Yeah.
you can start to plant those seeds that get them feeling good and interested and wanting to learn more. So the best practice is optimize that profile. That's an important part, and then, don't just go on it once every 6 months. Get into the habit of scrolling through that LinkedIn feed and connecting with people and messaging people and commenting and engaging on those posts that are on that LinkedIn feed. And do it with a warmth, do it with a desire to just help and be involved. Good things happen when you do that.
Yeah, I'll add to that two other things that I think are helpful is don't be afraid to add your recent activities or accomplishments that you've done. Document them there. Show people what it is you're working on and some of the new things that you're actually completing or finishing, some of the accolades that maybe you've received. And then secondly, you have the ability to reach out to your connections and ask them to leave kind of reviews or testimonials or something to that effect. And so if you could reach out to your customers that you currently have and request a few of them to do so, it actually fills out and completes your profile to have, here are some of the things that they've recently done, here are their projects that they're working on, here are some of the people that have interacted that can testify to who this individual is. And I think those are two great additions to a profile that really kind of flesh it out more.
And here's two more things. One thing that you do a number of great things, Roger, on your profile.
Thank you.
But one thing that I really like is your featured section. You've used your featured section to really showcase who you are and offer links out to other areas on the web that host your knowledge and your information. And that's something for people to think about, is that featured section. But going back to what you were saying in terms of the testimonials, you can turn on your open to business and you can create a services page on LinkedIn where you can say, these are my services, and you can collect those testimonials. And people actually do go on LinkedIn and they request proposals from service providers. And if you turn on that services page, you may find that you're actually getting funneled leads straight from LinkedIn.
Yeah. That's great. I'm going to switch gears on you here, Donna. I want to talk to you about your business for a moment. Obviously, this is something that you are doing. I'm curious, have you worked with a mentor in your journey here of running your business? And as a mentor, if you've worked with them, what was a big takeaway that you've taken from that guidance that they were providing?
When I first started my business, I had talked to a business coach, and he had said something to me that was really very life altering. And he said, when people start their business, oftentimes they immediately jump into like a sales mindset
Mm-hmm.
where they start calling people and, hey, you want my services? Do you need my services? And they're really trying so hard to sell. And what invariably happens is you come on too strong and no one likes it and you alienate a lot of people.
Uh-huh.
And so then you fall into this, all right, let me market my services. Let me send out a slew of emails. Let me send out postcards. Let me, really just market it. And that too doesn't typically work all that well in that, that first immediate, sledgehammer blow that you do. And then people then start to say, well, you know what, maybe I just need to educate people on my services. And he said, but that's where you start to find traction, because people do need to be educated. You need to add that value. You need to be helping people. And when you're doing that, that's when people want to work with you. And to me, it might sound crazy, but for me, it was a mind-blowing thing. And I remember saying, I'm going to start with providing that value and educating people rather than working so hard on selling, or marketing. And I found that it really did work. It's getting in front of people and helping them understand why they need the service and what this is all about. And it's the educational piece, and it works very, very well. And that's what's kept me going since 2009.
I love it. That is good advice. Here's a question that I don't know what you're going to say, but I am interested in the answer. Is obviously we have accounting professionals that are listening. They have clients, many of which may be like you as a business owner. What feedback can you give us as a profession based on either your love or your disdain for the accounting that we do?
You know, we work with a lot of accountants, and what I find with accountants, they're very left-brained. And so a lot of times when, I talk about, telling their truth and telling that authentic story and, explaining, their eyes sort of cross. It's hard. It's very much more of a right-brained thing to be able to tell that story and to write it in an engaging, warm type of way. So I think if it was anything is the strengths that you have, in terms of numbers and the just the sheer, the quantifiable, rational aspects, that's what make you great. But if it's hard to tell those stories in a warm, engaging way, it is okay to ask for that help because you do have a story to tell. It just might be hard for you to do it, but it's there. You may just need to work with someone who can pull it out of you and tell it in a manner that's really, really compelling.
I like that. Now, this is going to be another interesting question. Although you're not an accounting professional, you are an entrepreneur, you run your own business, and I'm sure the answer you're about to give will resonate with a lot of the listeners just because likewise they're entrepreneurs and they're running their own business. But you started back in 2009, you're running your company. Obviously, it's been a number of years and you've had the successes that you've had. Looking back to your younger self, what's some advice that you would share with her as she was starting her business back in 2009, not knowing what to expect? Was it worth it? Was it, what advice would you give?
Mm. I wish I could say get started sooner, like start down this path earlier.
Good.
But I do believe that when I was ready, that's when I embarked. And so as much as I wish I had done it sooner, it worked out well. But I think if anything, I would say take more risks, and accept that success is really just a long string of failures that have educated you to where you are. So, take a lot of risks. Don't be afraid to fail. Get out there as much as you can and have a lot of fun. And it has been a lot of fun. I really truly believe there's nothing better than being the captain of your own ship.
So give me something that you're grateful for that you feel is possible because you are the captain of your own ship.
I love being able to wake up and get on the phone and talk to people and know that, I can assemble the team, that I can help them. And the work that we're doing is life altering because so few people truly sit down and think about where they want to go, what they want to do, who they want to be, how they want to define themselves. The way they choose to define themselves is how others will see them. And they can rise to that occasion by simply changing their story. And, being able to be the captain of this ship, I'm able to help so many people. And the work that we do really does. It alters their lives and it gives their families a better life in many cases.
I like that. So your family, your friends, as they look at you running your business and see what you do and what you accomplish, what are you hoping that they're seeing or learning from the work you do, the struggles you experience, the successes you have?
I think I think they see the passion that I have for it, and that even though there is stress and it is hard, it's all worth it. And, I love what I do, and I've got a tiger by its tail, and I don't ever want to let it go.
Very good. So what does the word freedom mean to you?
For me, it's not answering to anyone. It's being able to make my own decisions. It's choosing what where I put my attention and who I give my attention to. And, being able to say yes to opportunities as well as saying no to opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
It's
I
being
like
that
that.
adult, and knowing that sometimes when you're in a corporate environment, there's sometimes you're, what is it, infant, they treat you like an infant. And
Yep.
that's the one nice thing. I think the freedom here is you choose to be who you want to be.
When you're working for a company, and rightfully so, you are put into a position where you're kind of pegged. You have a particular role you're needing to accomplish, various tasks that you're needing to perform, and you're being paid to very, very deliberately accomplish those specific things. But as a business owner, you're dealing with everything associated with the business, everything from taking out the garbage to working with the clients, retaining them, onboarding them. I mean, there's a lot of facets that even if you're not personally involved with, you're orchestrating the processes and systems that make up the company.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to it, and it's fun. If you're an entrepreneur, I think you get a lot of enthusiasm and excitement for those things that can be changed and improved and done better, and ultimately bring in profit. So that's kind of the allure of the whole thing. So I like that. Here's the thing that I'd like to do. I'm going to wrap this up and come back to you for a closing thought and have you share with us just some last items. But as I do this, I do want to point out some offers. Donna's been very kind to provide in the episode description some things that I would encourage the listeners to go check out. As you go to the episode description, you'll actually see there she has a LinkedIn headline app that you can take advantage of, as well as some additional free resources that I would encourage you to take a look at. These are various things that you can do to leverage your LinkedIn profile and really take what you have now and utilize it as part of your business marketing system. And in doing so, hopefully leverage this to get the clients that you're looking for and grow your business. So definitely take a moment to check out the episode description to see what additional resources exist there that are related to LinkedIn and how you can actually then apply these personally and professionally. And I'll likewise put in there a few additional things that will complement her LinkedIn free resources as well. Now, as for a summary of our conversation, I thought this was a very pleasant discussion. Obviously, all of us as professionals are looking at what is it that we can be doing today to really leverage this LinkedIn profile. And for those of us who have profiles, but the last time we looked at them were years ago, it perhaps is outdated. It may even show the last one or two jobs that we may have had in the past. It's time to update it. It's time to now see it not as a resume, but literally see it as something that we can brand and utilize to really bring in clients and find ways to connect with the people that are part of our network. I believe that LinkedIn can be a tool that, when used properly, can expand the connections that we have, open doors that we may not have realized are there, and at the same time, give us a chance to interact with our community. I think it's very important that we find something we can do, just like Donna was mentioning, to at least once a week give to the network we have. These people that have chosen to connect with us, what can we offer them from the experience, from the expertise that we have? Make that post. But more important than that, it's get involved. All these people that are likewise posting and giving various things, we like it, we are interested in it, we find it valuable, but we're failing so often as a community to like and celebrate and love as well as comment on these posts. And I think that's where we could all step it up a little bit more and become engaged with one another and take what's really a good post and help it kind of spread a little bit more and go viral, simply because of the fact that we're choosing as a community to like the things that actually are relevant. So if we can take a time to get more involved with LinkedIn, leverage our profiles, grow our communities, help one another, I think we can actually utilize this platform a little bit more effectively. And I encourage you to participate, get involved, have your LinkedIn, and see it not as a resume, but as something that you can literally use to grow your business and make the connections you need professionally so that you can get speaking opportunities, get client introductions, get your foot in the door where necessary, leverage it. It is a tool that if you're not utilizing it can be very beneficial in your business. So Donna, what would you like to add as a closing thought to this conversation?
I think it's simply to take that moment, go onto LinkedIn and really have fun with it. Don't look at it as something that you have to do. Look at it as a way of helping, a way of learning, a way of developing yourself, a way of telling your story. It's such a fantastic platform, and it's there for you. And the mobile app makes it very easy. So, if you're there, maybe at a coffee shop or waiting in line and your thumb wants to go to Instagram or Facebook, say no. Say no and go to LinkedIn.
Amen to that. Let's spend a little bit more time on LinkedIn. It's a good platform and something to help us professionally, not just personally. So let me just wrap this up by obviously encouraging you to subscribe to the podcast. We have a number of episodes out there to help you address the various things in your business that you can be doing to improve yourself professionally and as well the work that you're doing with the clients that you service. So check out the other episodes, subscribe to the podcast. And with this, if you have interest in these principles, talking points, would like to apply this in your business, feel free to check us out at universalaccounting.com, or more importantly, give us a phone call. You can reach us at 801-265-3777. And always remember this, if it's about accounting, it is universal. Take care and have a great day.